Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to Chit Chat with Char. Our mission is to connect, collaborate, and cultivate. Today we have Cordell Reynolds, who is our special guest. So without further ado, Cordell, come on down.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, good. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Char. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So much going on. How's everything?
And life is good. Life is treating me really well. We're enjoying a nice, crisp fall morning today.
Yes.
Been fantastic.
Good. I'm so looking forward to cooler weather. I hate being hot.
Normally I can handle the heat pretty well, but these last few days, trying to go out to soccer games, and for the first time in my life, I've been ready for the cooler weather.
Yes, I'm so looking forward to it. Well, let's get into it. So you are with Supreme Lending. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about, your company, what you're doing, what you guys offer, and then we'll shift and get into some personal stuff.
Absolutely. So, Supreme Lending is a local full service lending company. We have everything to help with our clients, regardless of the situation. Now, obviously, my primary focus is working with first time home buyers. So, really enjoy educating and walking people through the process of buying that first home. But our ultimate goal is to be able to be their lenders for life, regardless of if they're buying their first investment property or if it's their 10th investment property, helping someone move into their forever home or downsizing to their from their family home. Regardless of the situation, we have products and services in place to be able to help them with all of those needs.
That's awesome. Have you done any home buying seminars lately?
We've been doing a couple of smaller seminars, really trying to focus in on um, finding ways to be able to bring that digitally as opposed to in person. Because I think with COVID and all the changes that we've had this year, it's been a little bit harder to get people into spaces for events like that. So
Right.
our goal is to be able to bring those home buyer seminars to a digital platform. That's actually something that we're working on to be able to launch for 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it would probably be a little more effective if it is virtual, just because people are doing so many things. I know when you and I would do our seminars, it was typically on a Saturday
Right.
mid-morning, and of course that was all pre-COVID, and we would get really good turnouts, but it's hit or miss. I mean, we gotta understand that, and then maybe even having it where it's virtual, but then it's something where they can kind of look at it on demand.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm working on right now. So my goal for 2022 is to be able to launch a um, home buyer. I guess you can call it a class. It's not
Okay.
necessarily a one-time seminar, but similar to what we tried to focus on building previously is a reoccurring class, kind of like they'll finish up with the class and be able to get a certificate and know that they're ready to buy their first home, and they know all the steps to not only buying that home but being able to build wealth through that home ownership throughout their life. And so that's what
Yes.
I'm working on right now to be able to launch in first quarter of 2022.
2022. That's awesome. Well, let me know. I would love to be able to share and help where I can in that.
Absolutely, I would love to have you a part of it.
So you talked about goals. Let's talk about that. We're heading into the fourth quarter of 2021, and now is really the time to start laying the foundation for 2022 and thinking about what you want to do, and the goals that you want to accomplish. I always like to take this time period to look at, what was done up until this point, and
Mhm.
then look at where do you want to go, for the next year, the next quarter, and so on and so forth. What do you got going on for your goals?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that we're working on. So this week, actually, as we wrap up here in Q3, I'll spend the rest of this week actually about 2 to 3 hours today, tomorrow, and then Friday as well, kind of looking at recapping what I've done so far this year, and then what's going to be able to happen for Q4. So often we get into a position here in the real estate world, particularly where we basically shut down for fourth quarter, right? We don't
That's
really
true.
expect people to buy homes. We don't really expect people to move or things of that nature. And so I'm making it my mission to not fall into that habit, because what happens for a lot of us is, once we finish up Q4, we're trying to run and get things ramped back up for Q1. So you're spending the first quarter of the year not necessarily accelerating or pushing towards those business and financial goals, simply because you didn't really do the work that it took to be able to accomplish those things in Q4. And
That's true.
so I'm proactively, working right now to make sure that we're not going to fall into that habit. I know one of the things that I'm doing right now, and we kind of talked about bringing this over to your team, is I'm working with a group of realtors, and we're doing a CMA a day challenge. So it's a group of 5 realtors, and what we're doing is a 6-week challenge. We started 2 weeks ago. This is our 3rd week today, this week. And Friday, we'll jump on a call. We'll take a look and see what they've done, what they've accomplished from a CMA perspective. And for those of you that don't know, CMA is just a certified market analysis. So it's just essentially the realtors taking an opportunity to look at a property and analyzing how that property would possibly sell compared to similar properties in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And so what we found is that if those people are able to spend their time doing at least one of those CMAs per day, what they're going to be able to do is generate an opportunity to one, get new listings. But generally what happens if we're listing a property, somebody's going to be buying a property as well. And so
That's
it's
true.
allowing them to be able to focus on accelerating and growing their business here and heading into Q4, which of course, as I'm doing those things, that allows me to be able to make sure that I'm focusing and doing those same activities to make sure that if we're going to be holding them accountable, I'm holding myself accountable as well.
And I love that. I love doing a CMA a day, because for a real estate agent, that is practice. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so not only are you cultivating an opportunity to have a client, you're also putting your skill set into practice on a daily basis. So I really, really love that. Have you guys yielded any results in the last 2 weeks?
So it's amazing that the very first week that we focused on that, one of the agents in that group, she got 3 new listings. Um,
Wow.
so we were talking a couple of weeks before where she was having a hard time picking up new listings, and we were struggling with a few of the buyers not necessarily winning offers, which we know that that's part of the market right now. There's
Right.
nothing that we can necessarily do about that. But what we can do is put ourselves in a position where we have, we're 100% commission. So we have to diversify our income sources and things of that nature. And so as an agent, the more listings you can get right now, the more security that provides and allows you to be able to spend more time focusing on quality for your clients, as opposed to trying to push them to move on the first house. If it happens sometimes. We want to try to get to the point to where we can receive a paycheck, so we try to move them a little bit quicker than they really want to move. And
Exactly.
so having those listings in place provides some security for you as an agent that allows you to be able to focus on providing the best service for that client. And so she got to the point to where really in the second week she was struggling getting the CMAs done because she was so busy trying to get those listings that she picked up on the first week, which that's a
Yeah,
good problem. I
that's
think
a
that's a
great
fantastic.
problem.
Yeah.
That's a great problem to have. So you're doing these challenges in 6-week increments. Now, the realtors that you're working with on this challenge,
Mhm.
are you inviting realtors to come, or is this just 6 weeks by 6 weeks by 6 weeks? How are you working that?
So yeah, we're inviting realtors to come. This was my first time trying this challenge. So what I did was I kind of picked out 10 realtors that I'm currently working with, and I sent out an invitation to them. And the 5 that we're going through the process with right now were basically the 5 that replied, and we're kind of testing it out, seeing how it works. I got this idea from a training class that I was attending from a loan officer that did this with one of his partners. And for that particular partner, in 1 quarter, they generated over $11 million in new business for them.
Wow.
And so I said, with those kind of results, I think, even if you get a third of that for most agents, that's going to be a fantastic quarter, particularly if we're thinking about Q4, where generally, as we said, that's going to be our lowest quarter. So let's find a way to be able to implement this, win in Q4, and then be able to generate some momentum that's going into Q1, which is going to accelerate our goals for 2022 as well.
That's awesome. I love the idea. And I think that, again, it just helps agents to put their business into practice in addition to generating more business for their companies. So
Absolutely.
that's pretty brilliant, actually,
Yeah.
that you're doing that.
You know,
So will you do the challenge again in another 6 weeks, or are you just playing it by ear?
no, I absolutely will. The goal is to do the challenge again, but my goal is to do it much bigger on the next time around.
Okay.
And so, just as we talked about for Q1 of 2022, rolling out the home buyer seminar classes and things of that nature virtually, one of my goals is to basically build a network of realtors that are going to hold each other accountable. I think we talked about this kind of like a mastermind,
Hmm.
and building out a mastermind where it's not necessarily people that I work with, but it is an opportunity for me to give back to the industry with bringing people together to be able to collaborate on how they're generating the opportunities to do these CMAs, coaching each other up, being able to provide some, sounding boards, and being able to actually practice CMAs on each other, and practice scripts on each other, and be able to do this with a larger group where we roll through, where we'll have like a 6-week cohort, and then we'll take a couple of weeks off, and then we'll roll that out in another 6 weeks. So, ideally, if we can grow that to 50 to 100 realtors that are actually going through this throughout 2022, I'd be absolutely ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great plan. Um, I mean, I love that. So we'll talk more about how to get some of our agents involved in that challenge as well.
Absolutely. Actually, two of your agents are actually involved in it right now. So
Oh, that's awesome. They didn't tell me that. So that's awesome.
absolutely.
Very good. Very good. So, so we're talking about our goals for the fourth quarter. I know I have big, lofty goals.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes my goals scare me. I don't know about you, but I, sometimes I write things out. I mean, I have a vision board that I do in 2-year increments, but I do it every year. So
Right.
I update my boards, um, and then I plan for 2-year increments because I think for me that's more realistic
Hmm.
um, in some of my goals, and then the things that I'm able to do within the course of the year will just move on to the next thing, check it off the box, if you will. But
Absolutely.
I'm very, very goal oriented. And especially with the new position that I'm in, where I'm managing not only one office but two offices with over 100 agents.
Absolutely.
So of course, my goal is for us to be the number one office in our company. So that, I mean, it's a lot. It's exhausting to even think about how to get there. So how do you accomplish your goals?
I kind of look at it as, three different things that I really focus on when I'm setting and then accomplishing goals.
Okay.
One, I want to make sure that my goals are all not one way focused, right? So anytime I build a goal, I try to make sure that it's an opportunity for me to accomplish something that I want to accomplish, but it's also going to benefit someone else. Whether it be, one of the things that I'm really focusing in on right now are personal fitness goals. And so I'm pushing through this. I don't know if you've heard of this challenge, the 75 hard challenge.
Yes, and I'm
Okay.
scared of that challenge.
I'm trying it right now. I'm on day one for like the 15th time. It's a challenge. It really is hard, focusing in on the ability um, to commit to a few things and doing those few things. But the whole purpose of me committing to those things was me getting to the position of how can I become a better father and husband. So that was the purpose of that goal, of being able to build that two-way. Is if I can do these things are going to be able to allow me to have more energy to participate in my daughter's lives, to be able to be a better husband, to be able to make sure that I'm healthy enough to be able to live a longer life for my wife and for my children.
That's right.
So that's the one thing. Make sure that it's a two-way goal. The next thing that I like to do is I want to actually challenge myself. I used to always set really small goals. I actually talked about this in a Facebook post yesterday, where I asked if you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self
I
and
saw that.
be able to, what advice would you give yourself to be able to accomplish your ultimate goals? And my advice to myself was to believe that you belong in the room. So I had a big issue with insecurity. I would always feel like I wasn't quite good enough. I wasn't quite smart enough. I wasn't quite talented enough to be able to accomplish things. And I think ultimately over time that forced me to be able to set really small goals for myself that I knew I could accomplish. And as a result, it boost my ego a little bit, make me feel better, but it didn't really move the needle to where I wanted it to go.
Yeah,
And so one of the things that I'm trying to focus on now is setting bigger goals. So like yourself, of setting those 2 year, those 5 year, those 10-year goals, and then trying to find a way to squeeze that all the way down into 1 year. If I can challenge myself to accomplish a 10-year goal in 1 year, how much more could I actually accomplish if I actually push that out for a 10-year prospect?
that's
Right.
awesome.
And so it's, like I said, we're setting goals that are two-way streets, setting goals that are bigger than I could actually imagine. And then finally, it's actually planning for the steps that it would take to accomplish those goals. So basically reverse engineering. If it's, business wise, for instance, my goal from a business perspective, it's always how many families can I assist with being able to accomplish the dream of home ownership, regardless of if it's their first home or if it's their investment property or their 100th home. Regardless of what that is, I want to know how many families can I impact. And if I can reverse engineer the amount of families that I want to impact to, how many people that I need to actually talk to in a single day, how many referral partners do I need to make sure that I have in place to be able to get that many people to actually talk to. It allows me to be able to work a smart plan and put that plan in place and work that plan to accomplish those goals.
I mean, that's an awesome way of how to take your goal and eat it one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when we have goals, um, sometimes we forget about the steps to get to the goal.
Right.
It's like, yes, I have this goal, but we haven't identified, okay, what steps do we need to take to get to that goal? And then we become frustrated with ourselves because we're not getting to the goal quick enough, but we haven't considered, okay, how do we get to that goal? What
Absolutely.
steps, what measures need to be in place so that you can get to that goal? One of the things that you just talked about was insecurities and telling your 20-year-old self that you have a place in the room or you have a seat at the table. Let's talk a little bit about insecurities. And I mean, I know we all have them. Can you dig a little bit deeper about, insecurities and some of your personal insecurities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I can't speak for where everybody else's source of insecurity come from. I know for me personally, I just always felt like I never quite fit in, right? You know, I lived in a life of dichotomy. I grew up in an extremely poor neighborhood. But most of my friends that I actually kind of got along with at school didn't come from that environment. I was a jock and an athlete growing up, but secretly I was an anime nerd that loved to read. And, living in a life where I never felt like I fit into any of those boxes, I never felt comfortable in any of those situations. I've always been a person that I can walk into a room and get along with everybody, but deep down I never felt like I belonged in that room. And so dealing with that my entire life, I mean, and it's something that I still struggle with today. Where, if I, for instance, one of my personal goals is to really grow as a real estate investor. And, dealing with the challenges and everything that it takes to actually invest in properties and grow a portfolio and managing contractors and managing tenants and all of the challenges that we're dealing with, I still have a hard time when I don't know all the answers and I need to go have a conversation with somebody else that does. Of
Right,
feeling like I deserve their, that they should be able to give me their advice and I should be able to accept it, and feeling like I'm good enough to be able to accept that attention or that advice.
right,
So that's where I think my personal struggles have kind of come from, of always feeling like I need to try to prove that I'm good enough to actually do this, as opposed to just knowing that I really do have the opportunity to learn and grow from other people, and I belong there. It's okay for me to not be the cookie cutter of example of what this person should look like or where they should come from or what they should sound like. I can just be myself and I'm still good enough to be able to be there.
yeah. That I mean, man, that's really big because I think a lot of us struggle with that same level of insecurity. How have you been able to work to overcome that?
um I'm still struggling with it, honestly. How I work to overcome it is forcing myself to be in those situations. I'm becoming more comfortable being uncomfortable. Um, just really focusing in on my prayer life, and to be quite honest, spending some time crying about it afterwards. Because I felt so uncomfortable in a situation, but I got through it. And
Yeah,
I think that's the other thing is actually seeing some success of me going through that situation and putting myself in those environments and actually coming out and everything actually being okay. I saw somebody post today that the worst case scenario is never as bad as you think it is. Um, just kind of walking away from talking myself out of doing things, talking
right.
myself out of being in rooms and having conversations with people and things of that nature. So
Because it's uncomfortable.
exactly, exactly.
Exactly. One of the things that that I think that I've struggled with, and over the years, I think I'm getting better at it, but um giving giving myself permission to be successful.
Hmm. That's powerful.
Um and I think it speaks a lot to what you're saying too, about the insecurities and the feeling that you don't belong, or you're not smarter, you're not as smart as the people that you're in the room with. But actually giving yourself or giving myself permission. And what that means to me is when you give yourself permission, you're saying that it's okay to be able to elevate and take your life to the next level, because sometimes our family and our friends and people that are around us are not going in the same direction, so we kind of feel bad,
Hmm.
or I do at least. I struggled with that. Kind of felt bad that, okay, I'm elevating in areas of my life, but my family and friends are not. And I don't want to talk about that because I don't want to make them feel bad about it.
So, personal question: how do you overcome that? Because that explains so much of how I still feel right now. So, how did you overcome that, and what are you doing to continue to overcome that?
And it's a continuation. It's not that I've completely overcome because, like you said, it's something that that is a struggle. It really is a struggle. Um, I think that, like you said, through prayer, I pray a lot, and if you know me, you know I'm a big crybaby. If you just look at me and I'll cry, but through crying and just really giving myself permission and being like, okay, this was God destined this for me, and being okay with that,
Right.
being okay with, this is the life that God destined for me. And if that's the case, then I just need to stand up and walk in it
Absolutely.
and not feel that I'm taking something away from someone else, or I'm trying to be better than the next person. It's not any of that, but those insecurities will make you feel that way.
Right.
The insecurities will make you feel um, that, oh, you just think that you're better than them, and it's not that at all. It's just that your life is moving in a different direction that may or may not involve them, and that's a hard pill to swallow,
That is.
especially when it comes to family, because we think our family should go everywhere, right? But
That is
sometimes it
true.
just doesn't work like that, and that's really a difficult thing. So my advice would be to practice in giving yourself permission to be successful, permission to um, take on different endeavors, and permission to take risk, permission to even fail, because sometimes that's we don't want to fail.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
don't want to
That's
see
such
the
a big one.
outcome of what that looks like.
That's such a big one. That's one that the fear of failure is one that I'm fortunate enough to that not be one of my struggles. Because I will try anything, and if I fail, okay, I'm easy. I can brush it off pretty easily. But I know so many people that struggle with that never actually take that step because they're afraid they're not going to be successful. I have this conversation with my oldest daughter, Arian, all the time. Yeah, she's one of those kids that there are a few people that literally everything they try they're good at. She's one of those people.
Hmm.
So she's so used to trying things one time and being good at it that anytime she's not good at it, it destroys her.
Yeah,
It absolutely destroys her. And I try to reiterate how important it is for her to continue to push her limits and try new things, because that's only going to allow her to be better at whatever it is that she decides to proceed or pursue ultimately. It is those failures are where you really learn. We get into the position of when you win all the time, you don't really grow. You don't really challenge yourself to get better because you think that I'm good enough to win now.
yeah,
And whenever you lose, whenever you fail, whenever you fall down, that's an opportunity for you to develop yourself and brush it off and develop some be able to push through that adversity. And I think that's so important in life. That's one of the benefits I think of playing sports for me is losing a lot of times. And even from a play to play perspective, as a defensive back, you know, giving up a touchdown and knowing that, the very next series, you got to go out there and guard that same person. You got to be able to brush that off really quickly and be able to get back into a mental space where you feel like you can win. So I think that's important.
one of my favorite quotes is, there is no failure, you either win or learn.
Oh, absolutely.
So I do know that there are a lot of people that suffer with failure and the fear of failure. um, I think early on, especially being a young single mom, that was a huge fear for me, is the fear of failure, because I didn't feel like I had a lot of time or room for error.
Mm-hmm.
So, my kids, they will tell you that it was like I was a drill sergeant because I wanted to control as much as I could,
Right.
right? To, in my mind, save time or save, you know, what- just save the energy from having to go through one thing or another, just so I could feel like I had some level of control. So, and a lot of that mindset and that thinking had to do with the fear of failure. Like, I just don't have time to fail,
Right.
you know, because every moment is critical. But like you said, the failure, that's where the grit is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you learn. That's where you grow. But so many, and it's not taught that way to us.
Right.
Failure is bad. Failure is seen as, you're inadequate if you fail, instead of us really talking and speaking to, yeah, failure it doesn't feel good, but if you look at it from a different perspective, ultimately it'll help you grow and take you to the next level.
Absolutely.
So, you spoke of your kiddos, and I know they are in sports, or at least Arian is in sports. Um, and that winner mentality can really put a crutch on, your growth. It can really stunt your growth if you don't look at everything as an opportunity.
Right.
So with Arian, what are some of the things that you're teaching her? I know you kind of spoke to her not necessarily have to win everything or be good at everything. What are some of the other things that you talk to her about, or advice that you give her?
We kind of focusing in on a few core values. One is just commitment to your word, right? Um, for instance, she on this team that she's planned on, it's a busy team, right? They have these they have games, you know. In fact, they got a game today. We got to check her out of school a little bit early to make it over to Little M in time for 5:45 game.
Wow.
So for her to have that commitment to, you signed up for this team, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're committed every single day to give your all for this group of individuals,
Mm.
because that team environment is no longer just about you. Once you sign up for that, you're now committed to being a part of their process and their success and growth as well.
Right.
Right. So that's one of our things that we really focusing in on is, once you say you're going to do something, you stick to it and you do whatever it takes to make that happen. The other thing that we really try to teach to them, and this is something I've pushed on my kids since they were, toddlers. Every action has a consequence.
Oh, that's
Uh,
big.
so whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence is really going to depend on that action, but every single action has a consequence. And,
That's
and
true.
so she picked that up earlier, that the consequences are gonna apply. And so generally we don't really have issues with her making bad decisions, because she's thinking through her head, dad said every action has a consequence, and I know I don't want to deal with those consequences,
Whatever they are.
whatever they are. Not so much with the little one. We're getting there. We're working. We're working towards it. But she's more of a boundary stepper. She wants to see, okay, what are the consequences and how close can I get to the line before I have to deal with those consequences. So yeah, that's the difference between having different kids. So commit, once you set your word, you commit to it. Every action has a consequence, and then constantly improve. um, I've actually been pretty proud of Ariane so far. She's now in the ninth grade. She's dealing with high school. She's dealing with, she's playing on 3 different sports teams. She's taking advanced classes. And so what I've noticed from her, at the beginning of the year, we talked about actually planning your day for success. So what I actually started noticing is she would wake up about 15 minutes early. So she wakes up now at 5:45 a.m. on her own with her alarm, and she gets up, and I'll go in her room and see what's going on. And she's in there actually typing out her plan for her day, restudying her notes, kind of going over what's going to allow her to be successful for the day. And
That's
I think
awesome.
those habits right there, I did not have that going into college. But I know if she has those habits right now as a freshman in high school, that's going to allow her to be extremely successful throughout the rest of her life.
That is awesome. That's awesome. That morning plan,
Mhm.
if you follow Miracle Morning, that's exactly, one of those principal concepts that she's doing. And in the ninth grade, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's really, she will go far with that if she keeps that practice.
So we're pretty excited about that. I mean,
We need more adults doing that instead of just allowing the day to run us, having a serious game plan for how we're going to be successful.
absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
So I know Miracle Morning is one of the books that people recommend for that. I actually listened to one just recently called the 5 a.m. Club.
Okay.
Highly recommend. I highly recommend it. Actually, let me get the author's name so I can make sure I give him his credit, because um, I finished it up on Audible. I listened to it
Okay.
on Audible, and um, it was just a great read.
And it's the 5 a.m. club.
Yes, the 5 a.m. Club. It is by Robin Sharma.
Okay.
Sharma.
Robin Sharma. He's a pretty good author too.
He is. He is
Yeah.
indeed.
So you just finished that. What other books are you reading?
So right now, I actually normally listen to books on Audible,
Yeah.
um, but periodically, if I really like one, I'll go actually buy a copy of it as well, and read the physical book, just so I can make sure that I'm spending more time actually digging in and studying and learning from it. The one that I'm working on right now is the Blue Ocean Strategy. Um, and so the entire concept of this book is that to get outside of competing within the normal realms of the rest of your industry. So it teaches you to step outside of that world and be able to look at a bigger ocean to be able to build and grow and accelerate your business. So I'm pretty excited about that one, actually.
Nice.
That's kind of where my concepts of different ways of making sure that I'm growing my referral base, and providing value in additional ways that I don't necessarily see provided in the market right now by other lenders is really coming from. It's stemming from just me being about 3 chapters in on this book so far.
That's pretty good. And now tell us the name of that book and the author again.
It's Blue Ocean Strategy.
Blue Ocean Strategy.
Yes, and it's by W. Chan Kim and Renee Marborge.
Okay. Okay. Very good. I'm reading right now. I'm physically reading. I typically listen to Audible as well. But I'm physically reading How Successful People Think.
Okay.
And that book is by John Maxwell.
Yes, it's a really good one. I like
So,
that one.
and it's a little small book. I can actually throw it in my bag and read it. But I've gotten so comfortable with listening to Audible. Sometimes it can be mind numbing, and like you said, you can't really dig deep into it, like when you're physically reading the book.
Right.
So I agree with you completely that sometimes I just need to pick up a book and read versus listening to Audible. I'm a little bit of a nerd too. Um, like to curl up with the book and learn. I'm a continual learner.
So
Um,
I'll ask this because I know a lot of people, I get a lot of people that say this all the time. Um, I, when do you have time to read?
I always read in the morning.
Hmm.
So early in the morning, I get up pretty early. Um, and sometimes my mind is ever going. So if I have like one of those sleepless nights, then I'll read, sometimes in the middle of the night just to kind of clear my mind.
Uh-huh.
So either early in the morning or late at night if I'm, having sleepless nights.
Right. Okay. Same here. first thing in the morning. I'm one of those people that that miracle morning or that early morning routine of waking up, working out, and reading. If I don't do it in the morning, chances are it's not going to happen for the day. And
Yeah,
so I have to do it before the day gets started, or else, just like everybody else, we get so caught up in what life brings for the day that
yeah.
you don't do all the things that actually accomplish that you can accomplish and make you a better person.
So are you a checklist kind of person?
I have to be.
Yeah,
I absolutely have to be because, like you said, my mind's always going, and so I'm thinking of so many different things, and I'm working on so many different things all the time that if I don't have a checklist, it won't happen. It
right,
will not happen, and I know that about myself. So the checklist is a way for me to be able to hold myself accountable.
right. I've heard some people say not to have a checklist because it can be a little overwhelming. But for me, it's like if I don't write it down, it's gone. If it's
Mhm.
not in my calendar, it's gone. And if you come back and ask me about it, it's like, what? What did you
Exactly.
we didn't have that conversation. I didn't write it down.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm a checklist person, and I have little notebooks that I carry that, I'm constantly writing things down. But there's something like for me, like I highlight the task once I'm done with it. And I don't know, I'm a nerd to the fullest extent, I guess, because there is something about going back and looking at the highlights for me.
Really.
Like, oh my God, like it gives me so much pleasure. Like I will write something just so I can highlight it. Just,
Gotta have
I
that
mean,
highlighter in there.
just to be able to open it up and look at a day and say, oh, okay, I accomplished all of this. And then it kind of motivates me too, because if for some reason I haven't gotten to my checklist,
Uh-huh.
then it's like, oh, okay, I need to get going. I need to get this done before I leave. And so it can be a blessing and a curse, I guess, sometimes if you're able to get to it. But I mean, I get so much pleasure by opening up my notebook and seeing that, I've accomplished several things out of the list that I wrote for myself.
Absolutely. No, I like that. I like that. I generally will just check it or cross it off, but maybe the highlighting, particularly highlighting in a different color, would
Yeah,
actually, I'm actually going to try that because I'm thinking through like highlighting in if it was a health thing, then highlighting it in blue or highlighting in pink if it was love. Because sometimes I set tasks for me taking my wife on a date or things of that nature. I have to have that planned out and things to be able to make sure that I do those things. And
yeah.
so I like the idea of highlighting. Maybe it brings a little extra flair to that checklist.
You'll have to let me know how you feel about it because I know I'm all for it. It's like, yay! I feel so accomplished. So you spoke about having tasks for taking your wife on dates or doing things special for your wife.
Uh-huh.
Um, do you, well, I guess I have two questions. One is the reason that you do that, is it because doing stuff for your wife doesn't come second nature? Or is it just a matter of making sure that you're being conscious of the time that you're spending, or what you want to do for your wife?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? I'm a goal oriented person, and so I'm focused all the time on the next thing I have to accomplish. That sometimes I have to slow myself down and be able to make sure that I'm focusing on providing love for her in her way. Shout out to Ty
Right.
Bradshaw. I got that from him yesterday. It's just talking about how important it is for us to be able to love somebody in their love language and
Yes.
not our own.
Yes.
And so it's really easy for me. And I think it's for everybody for us to naturally do what we want done, right? So if I naturally, I'm going to love you the way you want to be loved. But for my wife, it's going to be a little bit different than what I need. And so
Yes.
what I have to do is make sure that I'm proactively finding ways to be able to provide love for her the way that she actually needs it.
That's awesome. So did you guys go through the five love languages so you understand what her love language is?
We did. We did it with a group of friends about 5 years ago. We went through a whole series where we would, rotate, and I think we need to do it again, guys. We need to all have a refresher and do this over again. We would just rotate from each other's house and have bring together dinner, have the kids playing in one room, and we would go through the course and read through the book and discuss it and things of that nature. And it was fantastic.
Yes.
But I do think it's one of those things where, as any couple needs, every couple needs to go through it. And I think you need to go through it multiple times because we fall back into
Growth.
those routines. We've been married for 12 years. So it's really easy for you to fall back into routines after all of those years of, you know, just kind of, blandly focusing and doing life as opposed to living and actually enjoying life together.
And being present.
Exactly. Presence is a big word. That's one of the things that she talks about. That's a big part of her love language is true presence and making sure that I'm not there with her and working at the same time and responding to emails and text messages and things of that nature. So that's a big one for my wife.
Yeah. I one of the things Anthony and I did, like on one of our first dates early on, was we did the quiz for the love languages.
Hmm.
So for me, my dominant love language is gifts.
Hmm.
So for me, it's more than just a gift because anybody can give gifts, right? So I like the thoughtfulness that
Right.
goes behind it. Like if you thought about the gift, like I hate getting money as a gift. Like you didn't think
Pretty
about it.
personal.
Like I love money, but I don't want it as a gift.
Right.
So that was one of the first things that we did early on. But I love the idea of doing it as a group with other couples.
Yeah. We should definitely do it. I mean, you guys are close enough now that you're right down the road, and actually a couple of our other friends live in that area. And between
Let's do
Richardson,
it.
Wiley, and Saxe, we can all get this together.
Yeah, let's do it. Definitely would love that. And you guys are more than welcome to come to the house and do that together. So I would love that. So we definitely need to plan that
Absolutely,
and get the materials for it so that we can go through the five love languages couple style.
absolutely.
So good. Okay. So we've talked about relationships, we've talked about children and parenting, we've talked about goals, we've talked about your company. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that maybe we haven't touched on?
Not really anything else that I could think of. Yeah, I don't. I think we've covered everything that I kind of wanted to talk about today. How about you?
Good, good. So I always want to know, we've kind of talked about goals, and I want to go back to that. And I
Uh-huh.
want to talk about um, the most recent failure that you've had. What did you learn from it?
Okay. Let me think back through this. Give me a second.
Dun, 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 dun.
When you say failure, failure in what way?
In whatever way, whatever you define failure as, because we all have a different definition of what failure looks like.
Hmm.
So maybe let's not use the word failure. Maybe that's too harsh of a word. But maybe something didn't go the way that you originally planned it. What did you learn from that experience?
My 75 hard experience, right?
Okay.
I'm struggling through that right now, right? It's 75 days um, of working out twice a day, 75 days of drinking at least 1 gallon of water, 75 days of reading at least 15 pages of a book, not drinking any alcohol. I love my wine.
Oh,
I like wine. I like beer, and I haven't been able to. So surprisingly, that hasn't been a struggle for me. So during the time that I've been going through this process, that hasn't been a struggle for me. But what I struggled with is making sure that, for instance, yesterday I had to start over today because I didn't pre-plan my second workout for yesterday, and it didn't happen. If it wasn't pre-planned, if it wasn't on a checklist, chances are it's not going to happen. So if I don't know everything that I need to do by throughout the day in order to make sure that I get that second workout in, then chances are it's not going to
it's
happen.
not going to get done.
You know, last Friday I had to start over because I overslept and I didn't have time to do my reading. So making sure that I'm actually waking up and accomplishing and tackling and achieving my goals for the day. So really just sticking to and committing to that list is, I think, what I'm really discovering that I have to do in order to be my best version of myself.
Gotcha. So with the 75 hard program, so
Mhm.
if you miss one of the components, you have to start over, or
You
is
start
that just something you're doing for you?
you start all over if you miss one.
Gotcha. So 75 hard could end up being 365 days.
Exactly, and it's looking that way right now.
Really, really. Well, I encourage you to keep it up. I know that anytime you're trying to do something that's against what we're naturally accustomed to, it's going to be a challenge.
Mhm.
So I definitely encourage you to keep that up. Love the CMA challenge that you're doing for the agents. Definitely need to reconvene and reconnect on the 5 love languages for couples. So definitely want to touch base on that. And I really do appreciate you for scheduling time to chat with me this morning. Looking forward to having you back on the show in October. So we're excited about that. And I'm just excited again for this journey that I'm on in every aspect of my life. I feel like I'm being challenged and pushed and pulled in every single level, every aspect of my life. And I'm excited about that. I'm scared. I'm nervous and um, proud, all of that, all at the same time. But I know that I have a good uh, level of support, around me, like people like you and Lyndon and just the people that I have in my life. So I feel really good about pursuing all these endeavors that I have that are available. So again, I appreciate you for taking the time out to chat with us today. Can you share with our viewers and listeners how they can connect with you?
Hey, absolutely. So you can connect with me on all platforms, just simply Cordell Reynolds, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, not really on Twitter, but I'm there. Same thing with Snapchat or any place else. It's I have the same thing. It's simply my name, Cordell, Cordell Reynolds, Reynolds, and I'll be more than happy to connect and answer any questions and just be there to support you guys. Char, I appreciate you so much. You've been one of the most influential people in my life over the last 3-4 years since we've met, and really just kind of growing. In fact, the gentleman that I sent over to you this week, I told him you're like a sister to me. And
Yes.
I truly, truly believe that. I'm so excited and happy for you and everything that you're accomplishing. And
Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be a part of that process, and anything that I can do to help you, don't hesitate to let me know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, you are like a brother to me. I tell Yana that all the time. Where's Big Head at? It's you are like a brother, and I do value and cherish our friendship and all the different things that we've been able to accomplish together because we've done some pretty amazing things, for our clients as well. So
Absolutely.
I thank you for that. And thank you for sending over the gentleman. It sounds like he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'm
looking
excited about
forward
him as
to
well.
say it again.
I said I'm very excited about him. I'm excited to see what he's going to accomplish because sitting down and having lunch with him and getting to know him and his wife, as I think they're in store for some great things. So I'm excited about it.
That's pretty awesome. Thank you for thinking of me there. Thank everyone for tuning in with us on today. Chit Chat with Char, that's powered by The Difference. Our goal here at Chit Chat with Char is to connect, collaborate, and cultivate. The Difference has that same goal. We are very serious about making sure that we connect with other small businesses, small entrepreneurs, people that are trying to make it. One of the things that we found and that we know that a lot of small businesses are really great, but they suffer because of obscurity. They suffer because not enough people know about them. So this is my contribution not only to our industry, but to the world and our communities, to be able to touch and connect, collaborate, and cultivate those meaningful relationships. We thank you so much for tuning in on today, and catch us next week, same time, same place. Thank you.
Thank you.